So it looks like the two Williamses of Albon, Colapinto are out. Perez is out in Q2. Oh dear. Magnussen and Ocon also went out in Q2, but that was to be expected. In Q1, both Saubers went out as expected. Gasly went out. Stroll went out. Another dreadful performance as per usual for Stroll. Ricciardo, who is rumoured to be potentially in his last Formula 1 weekend of his career, it also went out in Q1, and yeah, it looks really bad for Ricciardo. Thank you for the like. Hulkenberg is the first car out. Good morning, Silverback. I hope you're doing well this evening, this afternoon, morning, wherever you are. I know it's a bit early in America because, of course, the time difference. Of course, for the cars, it's now like, what? It should be like nearly midnight in Singapore, but all the cars are going out on soft tyres. Colapinto has none of the Williams upgrades. That is very impressive by Colapinto, you've got to say. Colapinto has been so good in his opening 2 weekends of Formula 1. Yeah, hi Will, hope you're doing well. 9:48, yeah, it's early morning. Well, it's not early morning, it's still 2 hours before midday in where you live, but it's nearly midnight in Singapore, so for the drivers, I think some of them might be drinking a bit of Red Bull, a bit of caffeine, a bit of Monster. Yeah, Colapinto has been excellent. Like, Colapinto has been so close to Albon in his first 3 weekends of Formula 1, and I have to say, I think what we're seeing is the performances of Latifi and Sargeant get horribly exposed to how poor they really were in their time with F1. I think I always suspected that Sargeant and Latifi were quite fair, a long way off the pace, and yeah, Colapinto is exposing it. Albon's been okay. I mean, he was clearly better last year, but I do think Albon might have reached his limit in some ways because I think now he's in his 5th year of Formula 1, and I don't know how much more Albon can actually develop as a driver because he is now about 28 years old, so he's not that particularly young anymore. I mean, he's good enough for Williams, but not much else. And I think this season has kind of shed some light on that. Like, he's never going to go to like a top 4 team ever again, which is fair enough. I mean, he is what he is. But Ricciardo, I mean, I know I said on another stream that Kimi and Seb knew when to quit, and I know someone questioned me when I said Kimi knew when to quit, but you have to realise Kimi was driving for Sauber, who, if you look at Sauber's recent driver history with people like Adrian Sutil, Esteban Gutierrez, Marcus Ericsson, Felipe Nasser, Pascal Wehrlein driving for them before Kimi rejoined the team in 2019. And when you look at the performances of Antonio Giovinazzi, it's just like Kimi was better than most other drivers Sauber could have had at the time, because let's be honest, Sauber hasn't really been a team that most top drivers or any decent mid-field drivers have decided to drive for the past decade or so, since they had Perez and Kobayashi and Hulkenberg race for them. I think that's the last time it was like a team that was attracting some of the best midfielders in the pack for them. But yeah, look at the field. Oh, so Hulkenberg goes fastest, but of course he's the first one to set time lap with a 1:30.8. Piastri obviously goes much faster, 8 tenths quicker. I don't think that's good anywhere near close enough a pole position. But of course, Verstappen 129.79, very impressive lap time. Just as Perez has looked like he's. Oh, it's a red flag. It's a red flag. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing with Albon is that he is kind of a bit similar to Daniel Ricciardo in that Albon does have a good relationship with journalists like Daniel Ricciardo. Is there lizards on the track again? My God, what's going on? What is it with lizards on the Singapore track? Like, as for Ricciardo, I mean, let's be honest, he should have left F1 after 2022 when Lando Norris, of all people, was giving him an absolute hiding. And when you take into account that Oscar Piastri hasn't taken too long to get somewhat close to Norris's pace in 18 months, and the fact that Norris is honestly should be in a position where he should be leading the championship, but is not. Yeah, I think this has exposed how far Ricciardo has fallen off. Like, the thing with Norris is that I think at best he's really at the level of someone like David Coulthard, possibly Rubens Barrichello, and, well, although I have to say I don't quite think he's as good as a Jenson Button or a Mark Webber, or even possibly a Jacques Villeneuve. I think, yeah, this is terrible news for Ricciardo when he looks at how Norris is comparing to Piastri, because I mean, if Norris was really performing well, he would be miles clear of Piastri, but he's not. Like, I have said it before and I'll say it again, Lando Norris could have had anywhere up to 9 race victories this season. Controversial, maybe a bit over the top, but the car he's had, I definitely think he absolutely should be leading the championship at this point. He should have actually taken the championship lead in the last 2 races, to be honest, because Red Bull are definitely struggling with their car. It's like losing asymmetric brakes has definitely caused Red Bull all sorts of headaches. And of course, the departure of Adrian Newey has also caused further issues for Red Bull because they don't seem to be fixing car issues. Although on top of that, the fact that he decided to listen to Max Verstappen when it comes to car direction, partly due to the fact he's the one been winning races, and ignoring Sergio Perez, who obviously being the less talented driver can detect car issues more easily due to the fact he simply cannot be able to drive around issues as well as Max Verstappen can, has been a massive problem for the Red Bull boys at Milton Keynes. So, whilst, yeah, Perez has had another poor qualifying session, I mean, they did sign him as a number 2 driver for a reason, and that is so that they have an experienced driver who can give them driver feedback, just like Kimi Räikkönen at Ferrari, just like Bottas at Mercedes. You get the picture. Because whilst, yes, it can be infuriating to have a driver who might not be up there fighting for wins all the time, they are the type of people that can do guinea pig experiments and they can test bits and pieces. Zhou. Well, apparently Zhou is using an older car, but to be frankly honest, I mean, Sauber shot themselves in the foot in at least 4 races this season. I think Australia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and I can't remember the other one. Was it Shanghai? I can't even remember, but they could have had 4-point scoring opportunities with Bottas already, and they blew all of them due to strategy errors, car problems. Whenever Zhou has an average race, yeah, but we're talking about Sauber here. Like, you have to realise Sauber are not really. Sauber are not a great team themselves. Like, you gotta realise, as much as it seemed like Kimi was just dragging his career out for the sake of getting one more pay packet, compared to, like, you have to realise all the best midfield drivers do not want to drive for Sauber, hence why Kimi was so invaluable to them, and why Sauber, shockingly enough, were actually offering Kimi a contract extension for 2022, despite the fact he just turned 42 years old. Yeah, but the thing with Sauber is that you don't need to be very good most of the time, to be honest. As long as you have like 3 or 4 good races where you bag a few points here and there, that's good enough for Sauber. They really are the bare minimum. Like, I mean, Kimi more or less only had like 4 or 5 good races a year in his last 2 years at Sauber, and that was enough for him to score points for the team. So, like, you don't need to do much to impress this Sauber team, I'm afraid. They are the bare minimum. They are the literal backmarkers of F1. Bottas is not a bad driver, mind you. He's just, dude, I mean, it's sort of like, what else can, like, I don't think many drivers could actually score points in this year's Sauber with all the strategic errors and the reliability issues and the fact that Sauber still don't really know how to do pit stops properly, because that's been a problem for 5 or 6 years now. And that Sauber's pit stops are actually amongst the worst in the paddock. I don't know about that, because 2021, Bottas outscored Perez by quite a fair bit and helped Mercedes win the Constructors' Championship. So I think that's a bit of a harsh assessment on Bottas. I mean, yes, I know in 2018, Bottas was really poor, by getting beaten by a 39-year-old Kimi Raikkonen, and of course Max Verstappen, who was struggling for the first half of the year due to the fact he was crashing into literally every moving object. But yeah, of course, in the last 4 races of 2018, Bottas finished 5th in all of them. I mean, yeah, I know Mercedes. Well, this is a really hard one to say with 2021 who had a better car. Some races, Red Bull clearly had the better package, but then, of course, the advantage would just swing straight back to Mercedes. But I have to say, the first of a 2021, Perez did take a long time to get up to speed with the Red Bull package. And you have to realise, McLaren, shockingly enough, were the only team to pick up a 1-2 finish at Monza with Ricciardo's final F1 win all season. Like, McLaren were the only team to pick up a 1-2 in 2021, so it was actually quite a close fight between Mercedes and Red Bull throughout the year. But yeah, I think Mercedes had a better car in the second half of the year, but things still. I have to say, some of Perez's performances, especially in qualifying, have been quite horribly disappointing at times. Hello there, J Yat. I presume by saying Piastri that you are a Piastri fan and that you think he's getting pole position, which is fair enough. Yeah, Hamilton made a ton of mistakes. Well, I wouldn't say a ton of mistakes, but there were a couple of really bad errors, like Imola, where he drove off the road. Silverstone was a very controversial incident. But to be honest, I think. And there's a lizard on my screen again. Thing is, though, I think you have to realise the way the FIA went about that final race at Abu Dhabi was nothing short of farcical in terms of how Michael Massey wanted to end the race behind the safety car, but then at the last minute decided to change his mind and decided only the lap cars in between Hamilton and Max could unlap themselves, which is beyond silly. Oh yeah, I forgot Hamilton at Monaco. Hamilton is just terrible at Monaco. Oh yeah, and he also struggled at Austria, which of course I think everyone knows Austria and Monaco are two of Hamilton's worst bogey tracks. For some reason, Hamilton just doesn't get on well at the Red Bull Ring, and of course Monaco. Absolutely correct. The FIA were a bunch of plonkers during 2021. And Mohammed bin Salman, well, even though I completely despise the bloke, I do think it was a case of him not putting any real thought or consideration to his comments about trying to ban drivers from swearing when he compared the swearing to rappers, because I just get the feeling with Ben Salman that he is something of a boomer. Like, he is a man in his 50s, so obviously when he was growing up, like, hip-hop was not really a popular music genre when he was growing up, and of course he was growing up in the Middle East, so, you know, I presume he was living in a very religious household where swearing was seen as absolutely haram. I think you have to realise when you're a number two driver at any top team, your results are naturally going to be limited somewhat, unless of course the team is dominating the sport, like we saw between with Mercedes in 2014 to 2016, and Mercedes didn't really need to impose team orders on Nico Rosberg. Early 60s. Oh, right, he's 60 years old, yeah, so he is basically almost a boomer then. I mean, I think, I don't know, the first song to be labelled hip-hop was the Sugar Hill Gang song back in, like, 1975, and I think the sort of hip-hop that's became infamous for swearing and rapping about guns and violence and so on didn't come about until like the late 1980s. So obviously by that point Ben Salman was already like in his late 20s, hence why he came out with a comment like that. Although I have to say, though, when it comes to Ben Salman's other comments, I think he's made all sorts of really stupid comments against other teams. He's just someone I think just got randomly selected as FIA president, partly because he wanted someone from the Middle East to take the job for the first time, but also because I don't think the FIA have like many people that are good enough to really lead them at this point. Hello there, Kiefer. I hope you're doing well. Of course, green flag. The track is open for qualifying again. Hope you're doing well, Kiefer. As it stands, both Williamses went out with Colapinto less than a tenth. Not less than a tenth. Yeah, less than a tenth. No, what am I talking about? Less than 100th of a second slower than Albon in his third F1 race. And of course, he did out-qualify Albon last time out in Baku. Very impressive stuff. Perez out in Q2. Of course, the Red Bull doesn't look quite as good around here, but of course, we all know Red Bull have generally not been particularly quick or competitive for most of this season now. For the past 8-9 races, I think the last time Max won a race must have been Canada, which is, I'm lost count now. How many races has it been? 6 or 7 races since Max last won a race, which is quite bizarre. And I think Max has barely been able to crack the top 5 in recent times. So yeah, it turns out to be, Will has reminded me that Ben Salman is actually a lot older than I thought he was. But having said that, I mean, he's not really that great a representative for the FIA because I think he's had. I can't forget what he said. Like, I can't remember now. I think apparently he came under investigation himself for like making claims that were unproven about something. So I think I need to do a bit of research on Ben Salmon because for the past 3 years he's just been getting involved in arguing and disputes and all sorts of things that have painted him in a very bad light, which is a disaster when you're the FIA president. And of course, you have to realise it is a PR role after all. How was Max all of a sudden being so good on a track because his lap time? I don't know, mate. It's Max Verstappen. Well, I mean, you have to realise with the Constructors' Championship down the toilet, I think obviously Red Bull have very much have just focused their attentions on Max. Even though, let's be honest, they've always focused their attentions on Max ever since Ricciardo left at the end of 2018. Spain came after Canada, yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. It's just so weird to think that the Spanish Grand Prix is now a race that comes after Canada now, which is it's just so confusing how the FIA keeps changing the calendar every year, you know. Baku is now a race in September. Japan is a race in April. Spain is a race in June, even though the weather is absolutely roasting hot in Spain at that time of year. And I think we're all having to wait for a few cars to now. Well, why is there no one coming out? I mean, the clock is ticking, but all the cars are still sitting in the pit lane. What's going on? Oh, yeah, Max qualified 11th, yeah. Don't know what. Oh, yeah, apparently Red Bull couldn't get their car to clear the track floor surface last year, and it kept bumping across the track surface, hence why Red Bull was so uncompetitive at this circuit, and of course it ended Max's 10 race winning run. I think you have to realise though, this year their problems revolve more around their brakes and what was the asymmetric braking system before, of course, it got banned. I think it's a different problem this time in that Max cannot slow the car down properly for the corners like he did last year. Last year in Singapore, it was more a case of the ride height failing to clear the floor properly across a bumpy track like Singapore. That was that was Red Bull's problem at Singapore last year. But of course, I think Red Bull's problems have been very different in that I think with the asymmetric brakes is that the airflow around the brakes is supposed to be like supposed to go around the car in a certain way that allows the car to reduce drag, and the fact that both the brakes on both sides would be molded in a different way to allow the airflow to go around the car in a different way from one side to the other. Hence the term asymmetric brakes, which is, I don't think many teams on the grid have anything like it. And of course, in F1, we all know that in modern F1, if you find an advantage with an innovation that other teams cannot afford or cannot access or cannot replicate, it's getting banned. Just like Mercedes' dual-axis steering system, which allowed the drivers to pull the steering wheel in and out 4 years ago, it got banned after the season ended because they realised that it would probably cost the teams a lot of money up and down the grid to replicate such a system. And of course, we are under the cost cap era, so obviously, anything that costs teams extra money is now going to be banned. You know, just like traction control got banned after 2007, launch control got banned after like 2003 or something. I mean, in a sense, it is right. Well, I mean, the thing with asymmetric brakes is that it's not really a driver aid. It's more to improve, reduce drag around a car, so it actually improves driver car performance. But it doesn't make the car driving the car any easier for the driver. It's not like launch control, traction control, or even DAS for that matter, because DAS itself is something that makes a driver's car control a bit easier for them. But I think obviously with Red Bull and all the innovations they've had on Adrian Newey, like his ability to come out with new innovations to make the car faster has always given them a huge advantage. I hope you're doing very well around here. That's interesting. More people think Leclerc is going to get pole position on my poll. Didn't expect that. Although, of course, McLaren still have the fastest car in the sport. My God, some drivers really need to get a move on because we've only got 2 minutes to go. I mean, we've only had 2 time laps, and we've got... I think it's going to be like until like 20... I think it's going to be, even with 30 seconds to go, there's only going to be 2 time laps registered. So... just imagine if we get a red flag in the next 30 seconds. I mean, that's going to be putting a lot of drivers in trouble. And I have to say, a lot of drivers have been taking a huge risk to wait this long to do a qualifying lap. And we have to remember, this is not an easy track to overtake on because, of course, even with, of course, the track remodified in the final sector to make it a lot faster, I mean, this is still going to be a hard place to overtake. So I think a lot of drivers and teams have been taking a huge risk to wait this long to actually try and register a final flying lap. Most of the drivers are only going to have 1 lap on the looks of it to actually get anything in. With Piastri, the only one really sure of a decent qualifying spot, if we're going to be honest. Tsunoda, oh my God, Tsunoda's in the top 10. Didn't even realise, I totally forgot. Spent all that time talking about Daniel Ricciardo and I forgot Yuki Tsunoda once again is smashing it out of the ballpark. Piastri has now actually gone past Tsunoda though on his flying lap, so I presume Tsunoda wants to have a bit of clear air for himself. Oh, and Piastri lowers his lap time to a 1 minute 29.9. So, yeah, that's Piastri. Well, Piastri can go again one more time. Norris, 29.5. Absolutely smashes Piastri's time out of the ballpark. And I think Piastri definitely needs one more lap. Hulkenberg in the top 10, yeah, but it's Nico Hulkenberg, mate. We all know Nico Hulkenberg is exceptional at qualifying. Look at that lap time. 4 attempts faster than Piastri. Like, how is Lando Norris not leading the Drivers' Championship? Like, come on, man. With that sort of pace advantage of a qualifying lap, you should be leading the championship at this point. And Norris should have at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 race wins minimum. But of course, he's only got 2. Hulkenberg goes faster and actually improves to, well, 4th place. But Hamilton is now up to 2nd. Leclerc and Alonso 5th and 6th. I think it's pretty safe to say Ferrari and Aston Martin are not really that quick. Verstappen 2nd. Blimey, where did Verstappen find that lap time? Of course, I think that's all it's going to be, as good as it gets, but it is pretty good. Russell up to 4th. Piastri down to 5th. Of course, Sainz is in the pits, so it's really just, I mean, does Leclerc have enough time to get another lap in, or is that it? Oh no, Leclerc's had his lap time deleted. Leclerc has had his lap time deleted by the looks of it, because, of course, get off the screen, Lizard. I mean, he was faster than Alonso, but now he's been dropped down to 9th place, which I can only presume he breached track limits on his flying lap. I think that could be it for qualifying, and of course Piastri's gone to the pits. Yeah, Piastri, very disappointing lap, I have to say. Yeah, card number 16, time deleted, track limits at turn 2. Yeah, Leclerc's been relegated down to 9th place for reaching track limits, so what a shame, what a shame. Impressive lap for Hulkenberg, 6th place. Once again, Hulkenberg smashing it out of the ballpark. So Norris is on pole position. And I did say before, no, I know Lando Norris has not been very impressive this season, but he actually still has a chance of winning the championship, because the fact of the matter is, Red Bull's car is just really slow at this point. Okay, yes, I know Max has pulled off a great qualifying lap, but I don't really see Max being a contender to win the race. Of course, I know there's been rumours of Max joining Mercedes in the future. Let me just sort my TV screen out. There we go. These are the lap times. There we go. Much improved, of course. What can be said? Daniel Ricciardo, your career is over, to be honest. I did give a warning to Ricciardo a few races ago at Canada when he finished 4th, but I think Ricciardo is just done in terms of F1. And to be honest, what else can be said? I think Ricciardo was only brought back to RB for the sake of attracting sponsors, because he is a big name. You know, if it wasn't for Ricciardo, I think they wouldn't, Red Bull, the RB Junior team wouldn't have a Visa Cash App and Visa Cash App and what was it? Now all the other sponsors they've got right now, because Ricciardo's big name. Remember what does? No, it's Visa and Cash App. Sorry, I keep putting the two together, but we have to ask ourselves, what has Ricciardo added as a driver that he's been able to do that other drivers cannot do? And I have to say, I don't really think there's been an awful lot that Ricciardo has added as a bonus in terms of driver performance compared to other potential young drivers on the grid. And you have to realise RB, obviously, the junior or Red Bull team, so they're always going to have like young drivers offering to drive for them regardless, because of the opportunity of a pathway to the second seat and a senior team. Ricciardo knew how to light up the track. Yeah, that was like 5 years ago, mate. 5 years ago, Ricciardo knew how to light up the track. I don't know what to say. Piastri absolutely bottled qualifying, I'm afraid. And of course, Leclerc got his lap time deleted. So, because of the bizarre red flag due to what happened to Carlos Sainz, I think that just ruined qualifying for a lot of drivers, meaning they only had like 1 or 2 laps to do a quality lap, so we didn't get a truly representative grid. But for Mercedes, great performance. But Ricciardo, yeah, this is going to be the last time we see Daniel Ricciardo in Formula 1, I'm afraid. I really don't hold out much hope for Ricciardo. I mean, let's be honest, Ricciardo is now surplus to requirements at Red Bull. like, why the hell do Red Bull need a driver like Ricciardo, who has qualified 16th, while Tsunoda can get into the top 10 in the car they've got? Mind you, Tsunoda has not driven as well as he probably could do as well. So I think some of the races where Ricciardo has beaten Tsunoda is probably more. It's probably more of a byproduct of Tsunoda underperforming more than anything else than Ricciardo actually being that particularly good, because at this point, Ricciardo doesn't give you anything that anyone else can't do. Like, it's not like Kimi Räikkönen at Sauber, where he was clearly an improvement on someone like Marcus Ericsson, Felipe Nasser, Pascal Verlaine, Adrian Sutil, Esteban Gutierrez. Like, Sauber are a really poor team, as you can see from their performances this year. Oh, Ricciardo has got aura. Well, oh my God, I hate that word aura, because, I mean, Anthony from Man United has got aura. What good is aura good for? Like, when your only trick move is to do the pirouette 360 degrees and then end up making defenders just stare at you like, what plonker you are. Like, it's over for Ricciardo. He doesn't add anything to the team he's driving for, like Kimi did in his last 3 years at Sauber, or what Vettel did at Aston Martin. Like, I mean, Kimi helped Alfa Romeo finish 8th and 9th in the Free Constructors Championship he drove for them. Ricciardo, I mean, it could have easily got the results they've had Ricciardo with Liam Lawson in the seat. Like, we all saw Lawson get up to speed pretty quickly. So, I mean, let's be honest, Ricciardo's return to Formula One was mostly just a publicity move in order to attract sponsors to the team, so that Red Bull don't have to pump so much of their own money into the team. And now that RB have their money and their funding, I think Ricciardo is very much surplus to requirements. And, of course, well, funnily enough, now that Lando Norris has got pole, now he's tying with Leclerc in terms of who could get pole position, because whilst qualifying was happening, Leclerc was actually topping my pole chart, but in terms of who could get pole position at Singapore. But of course, he's only got 9th place after, of course, having his lap time deleted for track limits. So Ferrari have had a terrible qualifying session again. Ferrari, just as things are looking up, they always drop the ball at the worst moment. And what else can be said? Tsunoda absolutely embarrassing Ricciardo once again. And Ricciardo, this has got to be his final qualifying session in F1. That guy is absolute. That guy honestly should have left the sport 2 years ago after being embarrassed by Lando Norris, who himself, in my opinion, should have had anywhere up to at least 9 race wins and should be leading this championship quite comfortably with the car he's got. So for Ricciardo, everything's just really gone from bad to worse in terms of his reputation in the sport. And it's quite sad to see this happen to Ricciardo, but Daniel Ricciardo should have never left Red Bull in the first place. And this is exactly what he gets, because, you know, years of faffing around at Renault and McLaren trying to adapt his driving style when he already had a race-winning car in between his fingertips at Red Bull 6 years ago. That's what he gets. That's what he gets. You are your own worst enemy, Ricciardo. Norris is having a breakout year, but he's in his 6th year of Formula One. Like, you gotta realize, when Kimi Räikkönen was racing in Formula One, like, Kimi Räikkönen's 6th year was 2006, and of course, Kimi had his breakout year all the way back in 2003 in his 3rd season. So, and then of course, Alonso himself was having his breakout year in what was only his 2nd year of racing in Formula One. So really, in terms of driver development, Norris is really slow when it's come to really developing himself compared to other drivers. Ricciardo had his breakout year in 2014, which was only his third full season. Like, people make a lot of excuses for Lando Norris, I've got to say. Yeah, I know he's the story of 2024, but you have to realise, I can't even, I mean, to compare a potential Lando Norris championship win would actually be something of an insult to Jacques Villeneuve and Jenson Button too. Yes, I know those drivers struggled in 1997 and 2009, but in terms of actually getting the job done in their championship wins, because I think they both won like 6 or 7 races, but in between then they also had a lot of bad races throughout the year. But Lando Norris, as we speak, has still only got 2 race wins to his name, despite the fact he is now 59 points behind Max Verstappen, which, look how quick his car has been, he should be leading the championship. He should be leading the championship. Like, he should have at least 5 or 6 wins with the opportunities he's had. Like Canada, Spain, not San Marino, Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. Of course, funnily enough, someone said that I didn't even know where San Marino was when I did that YouTube short on my on-call football channel saying, oh, you don't even know where San Marino is, you melt. It's like, dude, I'm a Formula 1 fan. Of course I know where San Marino is. You support Tottenham Hotspurs, who have won less trophies than San Marino have won games since 2009. So shut the F up, my friend. Kim. Oh my god, Tomo F1, his opinions are just awful. Like, I can't be honest with that guy. I think he just says things to provoke attention, to attract attention, to be honest, and to get people arguing his comment sections. I don't think he actually believes in half of the things he says. It's just content. It's just content clout chasing at this point. It's not really like, I think anyone who knows what type of season Kimi had at Ferrari in 2007, like, he had 2 mechanical failures, was Lewis and Fernando had 0, so that's a pretty poor opinion. And of course, we all know Ferrari's wind tunnel action was giving out faulty data in the first half of the season. So, and of course, we have to remember McLaren also withholding Ferrari documents. So, of course, McLaren were pretty lucky that they were allowed to finish the season with Hamilton and Alonso still in the Drivers' Championship fight, because, let's face it, I mean, if that was any other team on the grid, I think the FIA would have disqualified McLaren from the whole championship altogether and banned him from racing for the last 6 or 7 races that year. So, I don't even know what to say. I mean, Kimi had 9 consecutive podiums towards the end of the year. So what the hell is Tomo talking about? Yeah, look. I mean, what was I talking about? Yeah, Lando Norris, if he wins this year's championship, it's going to be a worse championship win than what Jenson Button achieved in 2009 or what Jacques Villeneuve achieved in 1997. Like, Lando Norris has really bottled quite horribly at times, but because, of course, he's popular with Sky Sports and he's popular with fans and he sells merchandise, like, most journalists are not going to admit the fact that Lando Norris has been really average this year. Like, I think I did a mid-season review and I said Lando Norris has actually been like the 6th best driver on the grid, just ahead of his own teammate Piastri, behind the 2 Ferrari and the 2 Mercedes drivers, along with Max Verstappen. Because Norris could have had anywhere up to 9 race wins. Like, okay, I know obviously it's not realistic to take every race win when you're in a close championship fight like this, but realistically, Lando could have had around 6 wins by this point. Like, I know Lando is not the perfect driver, but even for a driver with standards, I do expect quite a bit more. Like, this whole thank you for the people giving me 3 likes on the video. I hope you comment on the video in the chat to add a bit more, make it a bit more spicy in the chat, because of course, you know, I am a bit, I don't even understand how you can sit there and think that Kimi Räikkönen had the worst championship wins of the last 20 odd years. Like, I know there's some F1 content creators who just don't like Kimi Räikkönen because he doesn't talk a lot and he doesn't really like. He's not the sort of character that gives you like loads of juicy sound bites like other drivers. Because Kimi's just not that type of character. Because of course we all know Kimi likes to keep himself to himself, which is always a smart thing in this day and age where you can get cancelled for even the most mild slip up, like the Hamid Ben Salman did when he said that listening to drivers swear on the radio is like listening to rappers. And then, of course, he ended up falling out with Lewis Hamilton over it. Vettel, yeah, but the thing with Vettel in 2010 is that the car was quite unreliable. So, I mean, in the end, yeah, Vettel was probably the deserving champion in 2010, but you've got to give credit to the way that Alonso, Mark Webber, and Robert Kubica drove throughout the year. And I think obviously, but Vettel did commit some daft errors at time. I think, hitting Mark Webber in the side at Turkey, and of course, crashing into Jensen Button at Belgium were I think moments where Sebastian Vettel was still very raw as a driver. But of course, we have to remember he was just 23 years old, and it was only his third full season of Formula One. I mean, the problem with Lando Norris that he is now in his 6th year of Formula One. He started back in 2019. He's not a kid. Just because like he looks young and he has a childish demeanor and he can be also very baby-like in his demeanor. He's basically what you would call like a baby-faced assassin. He's actually quite an experienced driver at this point, so I don't understand why people are giving Norris so much slack. Yeah, I think obviously in 2012, I think that was the year where Fernando Alonso got really unlucky when he got hit by Grosjean and Hamilton at Spa, and then of course he collided with Kimi Räikkönen at Suzuka. That was the year that he went all pear-shaped for Alonso beyond his control, to be honest. Yeah, Norris really work hard though? What metric can you say that Norris works hard? Like, is he like Sebastian Vettel, where he will run around a garage cleaning stuff up, talking to engineers? Is he that hardworking? Because, I mean, there's not many drivers who can match the work ethic of someone like Vettel or Michael Schumacher in their peak. And I really disagree with that comment that Norris knows how to race, because I've lost count the number of times Norris has bogged down at the start, been outwitted in a wheel-to-wheel fight. I don't really think, and then of course when it comes to race strategy in terms of knowing when to pit, what tires to pit, to choose, Lando Norris is still very lacking in those departments, I'm afraid, and that's just the bare bones of it all. Like, Lando Norris has got the pace of a top driver, but he doesn't have the racing IQ of a top driver, if you know what I mean. Having said that, though, I mean, Verstappen has qualified second, and I think you have to also realise that in many races where Max Verstappen has had problems in qualifying or the race itself, like, Norris has not capitalised upon Max's problems as much as he probably should have done, or what another top driver like Hamilton, Alonso would have done if they were singing at McLaren right now. Peter Brook, oh yeah, Peter Brooks. Oh right, yeah, Peter Brooks. I don't know why I was thinking of another Australian racing driver with a similar name called Peter Brook, but of course he was mostly racing in Australian touring cars. Sorry, Peter Brook. Yeah, I know it's F1 channel. You're absolutely correct, Will. I think Norris has definitely bottled anywhere between up to about 60 to 100 points this year, because I'm definitely in agreement that Norris should be leading this championship by now. Yeah, Vettel was very good in 2008 and 2015. I think there's no debate over that. I think the only people that debate that sort of stuff are your hardcore Fernando Alonso fanboys who just cannot stand the fact that Vettel beat Alonso in 2010 and 2012. That's the only reason why a debate exists over Vettel's career, to be honest. Hello there, Luka Modric fan. I hope you're doing very well this afternoon, young man. I keep forgetting who. Oh yeah, you support Real Madrid. I don't even know. I can't even remember what Real Madrid did in the Champions League. Sorry. Yeah. But of course, I am here to talk about Formula One. Because the facts say yes. I'm sorry. I've got to agree with Will. Like, Norris should be leading the championship, and he should have at least a minimum of 5 or 6 race wins instead of just 2 wins. And he could have had a maximum of 9 wins this year. This McLaren, like, if you put 2005 Kimi Räikkönen in this 2024 McLaren, Kimi would be laughing all the way to the bank. Not only that, he'd be getting absolutely wasted in every off weekend he's got, and he'd be winning this championship easily. Like, peak Sebastian Vettel would be getting the job done in his McLaren as well. So would Alonso. So would Hamilton. So would Okay, I know Verstappen's in the championship fight, so I can't count him, but so would peak Michael Schumacher would be walking all the way to the championship win. Like, the only reason why Norris is the #1 driver at McLaren is because Piastri's only in his 2nd year of F1, and the fact that Piastri still needs to work on his qualifying pace, because in contrary to Norris, I think Piastri is a great race driver in race conditions in terms of strategy, overtaking, starts and all that, but kind of a bit like Kimi Räikkönen, he is a bit average and over qualifying laps, so that's the thing that probably is why Norris has ended up being McLaren's #1 driver. But I think if Piastri can really improve in qualifying trim, I don't think Norris's time as McLaren's #1 driver is going to last very long, to be honest. Nico Rosberg would have had 6 or 7 race wins. Yeah, even Nico Rosberg would have got more wins in that McLaren by now. And I think Rosberg himself would be, in his prime, he would also be neck and neck with Verstappen for the championship lead as well. Like, Norris is just falling way below expectations. It's not good enough, man. Like, this is the thing. Norris is a naturally fast driver. He is good at qualifying, and when you have that sort of natural speed, like, I mean, we saw Felipe Massa fight for the championship with Lewis Hamilton in 2008 because Felipe Massa, whilst he was a bit average at racecraft, strategy, overtaking and all that, even a driver like him could just take advantage of the fact that he was quick in qualifying and compete for the championship. Like, and although, of course, we have to remember, I think Felipe Massa was actually in his 6th year of Formula 1 himself. I know Massa was already like at least 3 years older than what Norris is now, because Norris is only 24 years old, but still, yeah, you have a good day, Luka Modric fan. Maybe I could do a football stream soon where I can actually talk to you about Ronaldo, Bellingham, Messi, and all the rest of it. As I've said, Norris has had 14.94 points on average this season. Vettel had 15.24, yeah, but Vettel himself fell way short of winning the championship in 2018, so that's a bad comparison, mate. And you have to realise, I mean, Verstappen has got a slower car for basically now, like, the past 10 or 11 races, so if anything, this is reflecting quite poorly on Norris, if I'm going to be honest. Even Jenson Bond, okay, I don't know about Jenson Button. I think we might be going a bit over the top saying Jenson Bond would have got 6 or 7 wins, but because Jenson Bond's qualifying pace was never that great, but and the fact that Jenson Bond did have a habit of having dips in form, but yeah, 2024 McLaren is way better than the 2018 Ferrari, because we have to remember in the second half of 2018, Ferrari did go and put a bunch of new upgrades on their car, and it caused all sorts of problems for both Kimi and Vettel, where they were miles off the pace in Singapore. They struggled at Suzuka. Of course, I know there was also that daft decision to put extreme wets on the cars for Q3, which I have no idea what the hell they were thinking of. And then, of course, they struggled at Russia, and really, the new upgrade. I mean, they only started looking fast again when they got rid of the upgrades, and then Kimi went and won at Kota, which I have to say that was a race that Vettel could have won had he not collided with Ricciardo on the first lap. Yeah, sorry, you can't compare Vettel. You can't compare this year's Norris to 2018 Vettel, because Vettel was up against Lewis Hamilton, who was in a fairly quick Mercedes that was clearly fast throughout most of that year. So I don't even know where the hell you can get that comparison from. And you have to realise Mercedes in their pomp between 2014 and 2020 were a well-oiled machine that rarely ever faltered. I know you have Hamilton fans nitpicking at every minor mistake Mercedes might make or whatever, but Hamilton might accidentally fall behind another driver during a pit stop cycle, but those were very minor errors compared to what Ferrari were committing. Oh yeah, Charles Leclerc as well. Yeah, Charles Leclerc would definitely do a better job than Norris. Yeah, absolutely agreed again, Will. It was literally the same point system. No, you have to realise, but you now get an extra point for a fastest lap, because I think there is kind of an effect that getting an extra, adding a point for the fastest lap has had now since 2019, and that instead of drivers trying to save their cars to the checkered flag like you did right up until 2018, now you do get a lot of drivers trying to push towards the end of the race in order to get that fastest lap point, trying to push a lot more than what they used to, because of the fact that they have that incentive of getting an extra point. Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. Say, like, why on earth are you doing a points per race comparison between Vettel and Norris? It's like Norris has clearly got the fastest car on the grid. Vettel in 2018, I think, had a car that was maybe the fastest in about 3 or 4 or 5 races. I mean, in spite of what a lot of Hamilton fans would say that, oh, Hamilton won the car in the 3rd fastest car throughout those years, which is just absolute nonsense. I think we also have to remember, of course, Ferrari were not a well-run team. Like Ferrari, Sergio Macchioni died. Maurizio Arriva-Bene got sacked. The technical department looked like they didn't have any idea of why on earth they produced a car that was fast at certain tracks and why it was slow at other tracks. Like, with this McLaren team, like, they have been a lot more consistent in terms of their pace, but Norris and Piastri have not really actually capitalized upon it at any point fully, because between the pair of them, they've only have had 4 wins, which is honestly a shockingly poor return between the pair of them, when arguably they should have had at least 10 or 11 wins by now between the pair of them. I think the only excuse I can come up for Lando Norris is that this is the first time he's been in a championship fight, but even so, to be committing this many errors is quite shocking for, honestly, most drivers on the grid you can name. I mean, if this was Carlos Sainz driving like this, I'd be very disappointed with him. Sergio Perez in that McLaren, I'd also be quite disappointed if he was driving like this. Ricciardo, well, I know I like to pick on Ricciardo, but even Ricciardo, I'd still be very disappointed. Gasly, I'd be like, oh my God, Pierre, come on, man, this is your chance to get your revenge on Red Bull, and you're making such a poor job of it. Although, of course, if it was Esteban Ocon driving like this for McLaren right now, I think I would be like, yeah, this is what you get, McLaren, for employing a driver like this, who is an absolute a-hole. But yeah, 2010 Mark Webber would be doing a better job than Norris right now. I definitely agree with that. Heck, even maybe Rubens Barrichello would do a better job. Jacques Villeneuve in his prime in back in the late 90s, I definitely think would also do a bad job. Felipe Massa in the late 2000s before his accident, another one I think would do a bad job. This was really bad. And like when I mentioned the fact that if the likes of Sainz, Ocon, Gasly, Perez, and maybe someone like Albon was struggling this much to get the job done in terms of the championship fight like Norris is, I would also be quite disappointed with them. Yeah, but dude, I'm really quite fed up with Norris really struggling to convert wins and podiums and big results where he could eat a huge chunk out of Max Verstappen, because Red Bull, I think for the past 6 or 7 races, have only had the 3rd or 4th fastest car on average compared to McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. And at times they barely can clear Aston Martin or Alpine or even Williams at the last race. I think they barely could clear, was it Alex Albon in the Williams, which is quite hilarious to think about. I don't know why you're talking about Romain Grosjean. I mean, we're not really here to talk about Grosjean because he was clearly a midfield driver in his time in F1, I'm afraid, with the number of mistakes he made throughout his career. Hence why, I mean, yeah, I know Grosjean was quick, but he just made far too many errors, hence why he never got close to a top team seat. Field day. We're not really having a field day. I think we're just stating objective facts about Norris and that he is just a massive bottle job. 2014 Ricciardo, I don't even know anymore. Maybe, but of course, Ricciardo was not in a championship fight that year, so we've got no idea what Ricciardo would do. But the problem with Ricciardo is that he has deteriorated so much as a driver in that I don't really know. And the problem, obviously, Ricciardo had at McLaren is that he couldn't get around the brakes or the steering system. Like, he couldn't get his head around the excessive amount of understeer that the McLaren suffers from. And it's the sort of peculiar driving technique you need in order to get the best out of the McLaren in recent years. I think we might be going a little bit far in saying that 2020 Sergio Perez will be getting the maximum out of his McLaren, because I think Perez has shown himself to be a bit inconsistent himself. I don't know why I still have this poll running, because obviously just before the poll ended, Leclerc was actually winning the poll, but of course, because of his disastrous lap where he breached track limits at turn 2 and had to have his lap deleted, he's ended up down in 9th. So I will criticise the McLaren team, by the way. I mean, Zach Brown, he is something of what I would describe as a PR merchant. And Randy Singh, the race strategist, seems to be a bit too interested in posing for the cameras. I have to say, McLaren do seem to behave like a midfield team, despite the fact they have a much faster car now. It's like they just haven't had it set in their heads that they are now a front-running team again, having been a midfield team for basically 11 consecutive seasons between 2013 and 2023. I think, okay, let's stop going through names now. Like, I think, Nick Heidfeld, Romain Grosjean, I think we're going a bit too far in terms of these hypotheticals, because, honest to God, I think there was a reason why those the likes of Heidfeld and Grosjean were never given a top C. It's basically because they were not really good enough when it came down to it. But yeah, Lando Norris, yeah, well done for getting pole position, but you have got to win the race tomorrow. You have to win the race. I don't care. I really don't. Like, if you come out with some big excuse about why you failed to win tomorrow, then I'm just going to be so fed up with this guy, to be honest. But, I'm going to say this. Even if Lando Norris wins the championship, I'm going to see him as a worse world champion than the likes of Jacques Villeneuve and Jenson Button, I'm afraid. That's not me being harsh. That's me being fairly objective. I know most people hate me saying it because he's a popular guy, but on this channel, like, I've had plenty of pot shots at Daniel Ricciardo and a couple of other drivers, so it's not like I really care about whether a driver is particularly well liked up and down a paddock. They're relearning how to win. Yeah, that's pretty poor from McLaren though. Like, when you have a car this quick, like, that does say there are some real structural issues at McLaren, and that ever since Ron Dennis have left, they just don't seem to be like a team that has like that sense of urgency and aggression about them. But yeah, I mean, McLaren are going to win the Constructors' Championship, but they're going to win the Constructors' Championship by default of having the fastest car on the grid. And as for Norris, well, if he wins the championship, it's going to feel like the ultimate winning the championship by default type of win you could get, because he should be dominating the sport at this point. He should be dominating. He should be, I mean, he's trailing Verstappen by 59 points, but arguably Verstappen could be, not Verstappen, Lando Norris could be leading to championship by 59 points himself. Kiefer, just stop it, mate. I don't, Kiefer, just... Do you know what? I think I've actually gone down a rabbit hole now. Sorry. I think, you know what? I think it's time for me to end the video. So thank you for watching here at Crystal Racing. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again next time.